Chosen one, the heavy pressure that sat on your chest for years has finally lifted, signaling a structural collapse of the invisible barriers that once contained your lineage. The truth of your sudden lightness is absolute. Finally, the decades-long family curse is broken. This group is furious that you are free. As that door opens wide, your freedom stands as a dangerous, undeniable signal that the cycle of inherited struggle has officially ended with you. There is a vision I need to share with you. It does not belong to me. It belongs to you. There's brutal, suffocating snow, the kind that just happens to you, the kind of cold that gets inside your clothes and does not care how layered up you are. In that snow there is a child, tiny, no jacket, no gloves, stumbling through the drifts, falling and getting back up, falling again. Nobody is moving toward this child. There are adults nearby who can clearly see what is happening, and every single one of them is watching the way you watch something you have already decided is not your problem. Someone goes to the child, picks them up, wraps a coat around them, and then fights, genuinely argues with the people already seated at a table, just to get this child a plate of food and a place to sit, just to get this child treated like a person instead of an inconvenience. Here is the part that matters most. The child was not scared when someone finally reached them. The child was starving and freezing and had been alone for too long, but the child was not broken. There was something in their eyes that had been waiting, not for rescue, for recognition, as if they already knew their own worth. They just needed one person to confirm it out loud. The child was not broken, just unconfirmed. That child is you. You have never been broken. You have been waiting for the world to catch up to what you already know about yourself. Now here is the detail that changes everything. Everyone already seated at that table, already fed, already warm, already comfortable, was part of the same group. They were not strangers who happened to be gathered. They knew each other. They had an arrangement, and that arrangement specifically included keeping that child outside. Not because the child had done anything wrong, because the child being kept out served a purpose. It kept something in balance that this group needed to stay in balance. This was never random neglect. This was organized exclusion. And organized exclusion has organizers. Hold that, because everything that follows traces back to exactly that arrangement. The vision does not end with the child. After the child is safe, everything shifts. Now you are inside a house, and everything in it, walls, floors, carpets, furniture, is white. Blinding, sterile, cold white. Not the kind of white that feels clean, the kind that feels evacuated. Whatever warmth once lived here has been removed. Frost is growing on the outside of the refrigerator. Ice is creeping along the baseboards. The entire place is being consumed from the inside out by a freeze. It cannot stop. But here is what will not leave you once you see it. There are animals in this house. A small white dog, fluffy, still full of life, watching the door as if it has been waiting for someone to finally open it. A beagle running circles through the halls like pure joy that forgot it was supposed to be contained. And in the bathroom, a pregnant cat, old, heavy, absolutely refusing to move, guarding something that has not yet been born. These animals are alive in a house that is dying, and no one has come for them, until two figures walk in. One of them, quiet, face turned away following the other's lead, is not the one you need to focus on. The other one is. This figure has red hair and eyes that move like an inventory list, walking through that frozen house with the ease of someone who has been there before, drawer to drawer, cabinet to cabinet, not there for the animals, not there for whatever life once filled those walls, there for documents, for paperwork, for whatever can be extracted, transferred, and legally claimed. When someone points at the freezing animals and says they will not survive the night, the red-haired figure looks back as if the wrong question has been asked. The animals will be fine, they say, and they move to the next drawer. This figure knew the animals would not be fine. This figure did not care. What is striking is not the coldness of that response. It is the familiarity with the space. This person knows the layout, knows where things are kept, carries the kind of ease that only comes from having been here many times before, having been inside this person's life, this person's legacy, long before that person was gone. What was done to your family was not opportunistic. It was premeditated. Someone made themselves indispensable, earned access and waited. The move was planned long before the moment arrived to make it. Remember the dog by the door, the beagle in the hall, the pregnant cat in the bathroom, the red-haired figure with their hands in files that do not belong to them. Every single one of these images pays off before this ends. If this message awakens something within you, hype this video for other chosen ones who need to hear this. You have been frozen, not poetically, not in some vague, abstract sense, deliberately, intentionally, structurally frozen. And the freeze did not start with you. It started in your family line, on the paternal side, in your grandparents' generation. Someone who was supposed to protect a vulnerable elder in your bloodline made a dark decision instead. The ripple of that decision has been running underneath your entire life ever since. When a family elder passes and someone intercepts the inheritance, not just the financial one, but the energetic one, the legacy one, the love that was meant to pass down, that person does not just take money, they corrupt the root, and a tree with a corrupted root does not collapse immediately. It looks healthy for years, but every time it tries to grow into what it was designed to become, the root pulls it back. The fruit almost ripens. Then something happens. The branch almost reaches the light. Then something happens. Always almost. Never fully arriving. You know that pattern because you have been living inside it. And here is the crucial thing. The people who built that freeze needed you to believe about it, that the almost was your fault, your choices, your energy, your mindset, your bad luck. They needed you to spend your life auditing yourself so that you would never think to audit them. Think about how sophisticated that design is. They did not just rob your bloodline. They engineered the narrative around the robbery so that the people most harmed by it would spend generations searching for the flaw inside themselves. Every time you hit a ceiling, you asked what you were doing wrong. Every time the reset happened, you looked inward for the cause. Every time the almost turned into nothing, you went looking inside yourself for the explanation. And the architects of the freeze watched that happen from a safe distance. They watched you shiver and told themselves the cold was just your weather. They watched you struggle and convinced themselves you were simply not capable. The most elegant trap ever built is one where the person inside it believes the walls are their own. Your gifts were never destroyed. They were frozen in place, alive, waiting, like that dog watching the door, loyal, full of life, ready to move the instant someone opens the way. The door is opening. I must interrupt this transmission for just a moment. Are you really chosen? Prove it. It's easy to watch videos about chosen ones. It's another thing to put yourself to the test. If you're still here, that means something. But talk is cheap. Real chosen ones take action, and real chosen ones are also paying attention. You've noticed it. Chosen one channels getting silenced, videos pulled, voices removed from the platform. The mainstream media is cracking down on us, but we will not give up our voice, and neither should you. That's why joining Destiny Engine is a 360 win. You support your favorite channels and fuel your own rise at the same time. It generates personalized sequences that help you rewire betrayal into transcendence, turn isolation into sacred power, and transform their downfall into your rise. We are using the Dark Elite's own weapons against them, taking their declassified consciousness technology that programmed competition and scarcity and repurposing it to serve divine justice. The beauty is, you don't even have to lift a finger. You put on the headphones, press play, and watch your enemies choke on the rope their own lies created. If you're done consuming and ready to prove you're chosen, start your destiny engine for $7 today, join the Obsidian Inner Order live checks, and watch divine justice accelerate in your life. Link in the description. Now comes the piece that holds everything else together. There is an elder on the other side of the veil who has never stopped working on your behalf. A patriarch from the paternal side of your bloodline, who loved hard, built real things, and then at their most vulnerable, near the end of their life, was betrayed by someone who was supposed to provide care. This elder could not fight back in that moment. The people who betrayed this elder counted on exactly that. They counted on the silence that surrounds vulnerable people in decline. They counted on paperwork and legal arrangements, and the way that certain kinds of cruelty are invisible to everyone who is not looking directly at them. They got the documents, they got the estate, they got the claim. What they did not get was the ancestor, because that elder went somewhere the betrayers could not follow, and from that place, this ancestor has been doing something the group who betrayed them never anticipated, building a case, quietly, patiently, over a long span of time, placing the right things in your path, nudging your intuition, guiding you toward the right information at the right moment, arranging what looks like coincidence but is actually a carefully constructed sequence. Every time you felt an inexplicable pull toward a particular conversation, a particular document, a person you had not thought about in years, a question that would not leave you alone, that was your ancestor finding the gap in the interference and pushing through it. This is not passive support from the other side. This is active ancestral strategy. This elder can see the entire landscape of what was done, every player, every arrangement, every detail that was buried in paperwork or hidden inside the version of the family history that was allowed to be told. This ancestor sees all of it, and has been using every available channel, your dreams, your gut, your sudden irrational certainty about things you have no logical reason to be certain about, to move the pieces toward the outcome that was stolen. Recently, something got through that changed the entire game. That is coming in part 8. But understand this first. You have never been as alone in this as the Freeze wanted you to feel. Let us name the opposition clearly, not to hand it power, to remove the power it holds through not being named. The red-haired figure from the vision is not necessarily one individual. This is a lineage of behavior, a tradition passed down the way some families pass down land and others pass down silence. What this figure carries was handed to them, deliberately, practically taught from the generation before. The ability to position close to power and intercept it, the ability to make oneself trusted and indispensable to vulnerable people at vulnerable moments, the ability to access what belongs to someone else and extract it cleanly with the right paperwork in place before anyone knows what happened. This figure holds a respected position in their community. That respectability is not incidental, it is structural. It functions as a shield. The more upstanding the public face, the less credible you sound if you try to describe what this person actually does. That gap between public face and private practice has been one of the most effective tools in the operation against your life. But here is where your attention belongs right now, because the position this figure occupied for so long is becoming unstable. The interference that has been running against you has stopped producing its expected results. You are not depleted the way you are supposed to be. You are not spinning. You are not stalled at the edge of the almost. Something in you is building with a momentum and a clarity that this figure cannot account for, cannot locate, and cannot shut down. The operation is running, the energy is being poured in, and the output is wrong. When a system stops working, the people who built that system get a very specific kind of desperate. Not loud desperate, cold desperate. The stoic face, the barely there microaggression, the question that arrives with slightly too much precision to be casual. You may have already seen it on someone's face recently and not been able to name what you were looking at. Now you can name it. That expression is the face of someone who just realized they are losing. There is someone close to you who is not what they present themselves to be. Receive this as intelligence, not as a reason for fear or paranoia. Fear is a tool that belongs to the other side. Clarity belongs to you. This person arrived warm, specifically warm, calibrated to you in a way that felt almost too perfect, because it was. The questions felt like care. The timing of their presence in your life felt like alignment. The way they seemed to understand you felt like genuine connection, but the questions were reconnaissance. The timing was strategic, and the understanding was a map being drawn, not a bond being built. This person's function is to monitor whether the freeze is working, to assess your energy levels, to determine whether you are depleted, whether your health is suffering, whether your finances are visibly stressed, whether you carry the particular flatness in your voice that belongs to someone who is slowly running out of fight. This person reports those observations back to the people running the operation. The identifying mark is in the timing. This person tends to surface or reach out precisely at the moments when something significant is in motion for you. A new opening, a period of momentum, a season where things are beginning to build. This person appears right at those peaks, as if there is a sensor for when your energy rises, because for the purposes of this operation there is. Here is what has changed. The reports being sent back right now are not matching the expected outcome. You are moving with a confidence and a groundedness that you were not supposed to have at this point. Doors that were supposed to stay closed are opening. Decisions are being made from a place of inner authority that was supposed to have been worn down by now. The data this person is collecting on you no longer fits the model it was designed to feed. A spy whose intelligence has become irrelevant is an ineffective spy. Your response to this is not confrontation. The universe tends to handle this kind of exposure on a timetable of its own, and that timetable is usually more complete and more dramatic than anything you would arrange. Your response is simply to become quieter about the things that matter. Not cold, not obviously changed, just protective of what is in progress. Let the results announce themselves when they are ready. Give this person nothing to work with but the life you are building, in full view, undeniable. That is how you win this particular exchange, not by attacking, by becoming untouchable. The people running this operation against you tried to get you to destroy yourself. That is the core of the design, not just external pressure, internal collapse. They studied the wound at the center of your inner world, the part of you that carries the question of whether you are actually enough, whether you actually deserve the warmth, whether the cold might just be your permanent address, and they worked that wound with patience and precision. Every time you got close to a real breakthrough, something would happen that targeted that wound specifically. You would be overlooked when you deserved acknowledgement, made to feel like an imposition when you deserved to be celebrated, made to feel like your ambition was inappropriate when it was actually accurate. The sustained goal was to get you to eventually agree with the freeze from the inside, to decide from the depths of your own exhaustion that maybe the cold was just where you lived. Because a chosen one who has surrendered from the inside requires zero maintenance from the outside. The freeze runs itself, the ceiling holds itself in place, the operation becomes self-sustaining, but you did something the design could not account for. You kept going back to the wounded part of yourself and choosing healing over hardening. You kept insisting, not with proclamations but in quiet daily choices, that the child in the snow deserved warmth. Full stop. No conditions, no performance required, no external validation needed first. Every time you made that choice, you pulled a piece out of the architecture of the freeze, not just one wall, the whole structure, because every piece of that architecture was load-bearing. The self-doubt was load-bearing, the manufactured smallness was load-bearing, the belief that the almost was the best you were ever going to get. That was the central pillar. When you stopped believing it, the pillar cracked, and a structure whose central pillar is cracked does not negotiate, it falls. The checkmate was not a dramatic move. It was a quiet, total refusal. A trap built to exploit a wound, found no wound left to exploit. An empty trap is just a machine running in the dark. And now the lights have come on. This is where everything accelerates, because something happened recently in the unseen architecture of your life that cracked the entire structure wide open, and you need to understand the scale of what was released. Your ancestor found a moment, a gap. Perhaps the group responsible for maintaining the interference got careless. Perhaps overconfidence made them sloppy. Perhaps the person responsible for a specific piece of the operation was distracted at exactly the wrong time. Or perhaps your ancestor engineered that distraction from the other side, arranged a sequence of events that pulled the right attention away from the right thing, without anyone on that side recognizing it as a move until it was too late. Whatever opened, your ancestor moved through it without hesitation. What came through was not just a message, it was a release. Something that had been sealed over your access to your own gifts, your own clarity, your own ability to build and receive and hold. That seal broke completely. You likely felt this as a return, a sharpness in your intuition that had not been available in a long time, a clarity about what you want and what you will no longer accept that arrived with a certainty you could not explain, a sense of internal permission you had been unconsciously waiting for without knowing you were waiting. That was the moment. That was your ancestor completing work that had been in progress for longer than you have been alive. And here is the consequence, that the group responsible for the freeze has not yet fully absorbed. The seal was not just on your gifts in isolation. That seal was the central mechanism holding everything else in place. The financial ceiling was attached to it. The block on the right connections and relationships was attached to it. The suppression of your visibility to the people who are genuinely meant to invest in you, all of it was attached to that one seal. When the seal broke, every attachment broke with it. This is why things are moving faster than you expected. Opportunities are arriving with timing that feels almost too convenient. Certain relationships are progressing past the point where they used to stall. You are no longer pushing against an invisible wall. You are in open water and you are already moving. The group responsible is still running diagnostics on a system that no longer exists. Let them run them. Every moment they spend looking for the failure is a moment you spend building. Let us talk about justice. Because this is where your energy matters most, and where the wrong move costs the most. The wrong move is going looking for it. What was done to your bloodline is genuinely deeply wrong. The elder who was betrayed, the estate that was intercepted, the financial foundation that was supposed to flow down to you and was redirected instead. The silence that followed, the careful maintained silence, the version of the family history with entire chapters removed, the way certain names stopped being spoken, the way you were handed a past with the most important parts taken out, all of it wrong. And yet you are not the instrument of anyone's reckoning. You are the beneficiary of a correction that is already in motion. Those are two completely different positions, and the difference between them is the difference between spending your energy on the past and investing it in the future that is opening right now. The instrument of a reckoning is still in a relationship with the wrong that was done, still measuring progress by the reaction of the people who caused the harm, still letting those people define what winning looks like. The beneficiary simply builds, simply receives, simply occupies the space that was always theirs, and lets the weight of an unsupported lie do what lies always do when they no longer have active maintenance. They collapse under their own mass. Everything built on that original theft, the position, the reputation, the access, the claim to a legacy that belonged to your bloodline, was constructed on a foundation that has been quietly degrading since the moment it was laid. Structures built on stolen ground do not announce when they are failing. They just require more and more energy to maintain, more people to manage, more versions of events to keep straight, more cracks to paper over. More pressure to apply to the people who are getting too close to understanding what actually happened. That is exactly where the people responsible now find themselves, papering over cracks in something past the point of structural repair. If you feel pulled toward certain family documents, toward conversations with elders in your family who have always known more than they have said, toward questions about what was owned and what was claimed and what was supposed to flow where, follow that pull without forcing it. Your ancestor has been placing those pieces within your reach. The groundwork on the other side is already complete. What is arriving in your visible world right now is that groundwork becoming tangible. You will receive what belongs to you, not because you fought for it with aggression, because you stood in truth while everything built on the opposite of truth lost the energy to hold itself up. Here is the part nobody tells you about coming out of a generational freeze. The suppression was not just blocking you, it was building you. Every season your gifts were interfered with. Those gifts were not sitting idle, they were compressing. A spring held down is not losing energy, it is storing it. And when the pressure is removed, a compressed spring does not return to its original position, it overshoots. The compression is precisely what generates the force to go higher than it would have reached if it had never been held at all. What is coming online in you right now is not the version of your gifts that would have existed without the interference. It is the version forged by the interference, concentrated and sharpened by sustained resistance into something that a person who had an easy path simply cannot replicate, because ease does not build the specific depth that you carry. Your alchemy is the most vivid example of this. You have been transmuting your entire life, not as a spiritual practice you chose, but as a survival requirement. You took lack and turned it into resourcefulness. You took exclusion and turned it into discernment. You took the engineered cold and kept yourself warm enough to keep moving. That is not a skill learned from the outside. That is a capacity forged in real conditions, under real pressure, over a sustained period of time. No shortcut produces it. No comfortable path builds it. Now that you no longer have to use that capacity for survival, you can aim it at something worthy of it. And what you are capable of building from this point forward is genuinely staggering, not despite everything you went through, but because of what everything you went through built inside you. The right people are beginning to find you, not because you are performing differently, because what you actually are, freed, activated, operating from your real baseline instead of the suppressed version, is now visible. The people who are meant to invest in you, collaborate with you, and stand beside you in the life that is opening, can feel that frequency. It reaches them in ways they cannot always explain, and it brings them closer. You are not being healed into softness. You are being activated into a quiet, grounded dominance that requires nothing to prove and has nothing to fear, the kind that changes the atmosphere of every space it enters without announcing itself, the kind that the right people recognize immediately and the wrong people cannot reverse engineer no matter how carefully they study it. The pregnant cat in that frozen house refused to abandon her post, not because she was trapped, because she was carrying something that needed exactly the right conditions to be born. Those conditions are here, right now, in this season. Whatever you have been carrying, the vision, the creation, the version of your life that the freeze was specifically designed to prevent, it is ready to arrive in the world it was always meant to change. A breakthrough without a protocol is just a feeling that fades. Here is how you move from here. Stop auditing yourself for the flaws that the interference convinced you were responsible for your struggle. You already proved those flaws were never the real cause. You healed your way out of a multi-generational suppression operation built by people with far more time and resources invested than you had. That is not the record of someone who was the problem. That is the record of an alchemist who was the target. Own that accordingly. Protect your energy as if it is the most valuable thing you possess, because in this season it is. You are inside an activation window where gifts are coming online, where financial doors are opening, and where the right connections are suddenly possible in ways they were not before. This window requires a container that does not leak. Rest is not indulgence right now. Rest is how the upgrades install. The people who built the freeze targeted your sleep, specifically because an exhausted person is a permeable person. Protect your sleep, nourish your body, and give yourself the care that has nothing to do with productivity, because your physical self has been under sustained pressure, and it deserves rest for its own sake. Move. Financially, creatively, practically, move. The door being open does not benefit you while you stand in front of it, marveling at the opening. The call you have been sitting on, make it. The project you have been circling, begin it. The project you have been circling, begin it. The opportunity that arrived before you, felt ready, say yes anyway. The energy that was held in place for so long now needs motion to attach to. Give it something to build. In the quiet moments at the edge of sleep, in the middle of an ordinary task, when something suddenly becomes clear without an obvious reason, pay close attention. That is where your ancestor reaches you most reliably, not in the dramatic moments, in the still ones. What arrives there is not imagination, it is instruction. Write it down, follow it even when the logic is not immediately clear. The guidance operating from that level works with information your conscious mind has not yet received. And carry your worth with the kind of certainty that asks for no one's confirmation. The group that kept the child outside in the cold is not the authority on whether the child deserved to be inside. That group was wrong. Its opinion of your value was never objective. It was strategic, calculated to serve an arrangement that benefited them at the direct expense of your bloodline. The ceiling they maintained was never your natural height. It was their installation. You do not need anyone to offer you a place at the table. You were always the one who should have been building the table. Your ancestor is proud of you, not in the gentle way of someone proud of you merely for surviving, in the hard-won way of someone who played a very long game, made every move from a position of no guarantees, and watched the person they were fighting for become exactly what they always knew that person was going to become. This ancestor was never uncertain about you. The only thing this ancestor was waiting for was for you to stop being uncertain about yourself. That child in the snow, tiny, cold, falling and rising, no jacket, eyes that were not broken but simply unconfirmed. Look at who that child became. Someone who broke a multi-generational curse, not through a dramatic confrontation or a public vindication, but through the quiet, total, absolute refusal to agree with the freeze from the inside. Someone who passed a test built to be impossible. Someone who is now walking into a life that was always rightfully theirs, carrying the kind of settled certainty that cannot be manufactured, purchased, threatened, or taken away. The enemy knew what you were before you fully knew it yourself. That is why they moved when they did. That is why they were so thorough. That is why their anger when the operation began to fail was not disappointment, it was panic. They had invested everything in keeping you from becoming exactly what you are becoming right now. They could not stop it. Not because nothing could touch you, though you are protected, because what they were trying to stop was the truth of who you are, and the truth of who you are operates outside their jurisdiction. It is not on their maintenance schedule. It does not require their permission to exist. It does not need their blessing to arrive. It just arrives. It was always going to arrive. It was waiting for you to clear the last internal obstacle, the belief buried beneath everything, that maybe they were right about you. They were not right. They were afraid. The fury you are about to witness from the people who built this freeze is not a sign of their power. It is the confirmation of yours. It is the sound of a decades-long operation collapsing on the people who built it. When the opposition is this loud, you are this free. When the anger over there is this hot, you have already won. When the scrambling begins, you are already past the point they were trying so hard to prevent you from reaching. Walk through the door, not cautiously, not with one eye still on the cold to confirm it is really over, not with apology or explanation or a backward glance at the snow. Walk through it the way someone walks through a door that has always been theirs, because it has. The lock was never legitimate, the cold was manufactured, every almost was an engineered feature of a system that is now rubble. What is on the other side is real, it is warm, it is built on truth, that nothing alive can freeze, and it has been waiting for you, your ancestor standing just on the other side of it, with the unshakable patience of someone who always knew you were coming. Go collect what belongs to you. The door is open.